Well known by Nikken consultants around the world, Dave Balzer began his association with Nikken in February of 1991. Since 2014, Dave has been running his own medical device company that produces diagnostic kits. With a chemistry major as an undergraduate, he attended graduate business school while managing a laboratory in biochemistry at Caltech in Pasadena, California. Please welcome Dave Balzer.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. For those of you who don't know me, that's actually my prom picture that you're looking at right there. I'm Dave Balzer. I've spent almost a quarter of a century working with Nikken, helping them with regulatory, design issues, technical issues, product issues, and product design. And I want to start by initially thanking Kurt Foley for inviting me back after a 5-year hiatus, and also Luis Kasuga, who decided that it might make sense for me to come here and talk about the evolution and the development of some of the key Nikken technologies. I also want to say that even though I've been away from, in a formal sense, I've been away from Nikken, I've never disengaged. My wife and I continue to use the Nikken products at home. We sleep on a Nikken sleep system. I use the duct tape. We use the wraps. We use the nutritionals. We have air filters at home. And the list goes on and on. In fact, I would go so far as to say I am married to a woman, a lady, a very nice, wonderful person, who I also met through Nikken. Sarah used to be in charge of corporate speakers. She was my boss. Well, now that we're married, she's still my boss. But we met through Nikken and developed a relationship and a friendship through Nikken, which I have done with hundreds and hundreds of people, which allows me to begin with my traditional approach to doing these presentations, which is to start with a joke, because it relaxes me, and hopefully the audience laughs, but we'll see. I really don't know, because I'm not going to get the feedback. At any rate, this was supposed to happen, as you all know, before COVID in New York City. And I remembered the last time that I was in New York City, that I was in Manhattan, I decided to get some street food. So I went to look around, and I saw a hot dog vendor with his pull cart and the big umbrella, and the umbrella said, Zen hot dogs. And I thought, okay, this is great. I'll have some fun and I'll get a hot dog. So I walked up to him and I gave him a $20 bill, and I said, make me one with everything. And he kind of looked at me, and he prepared the hot dog and handed it to me, and I ate the hot dog, and I stood there and I stood there and I stood there. And I said, excuse me, what about my change? And the vendor said, change comes from within. There's my joke. All right, let me start. The first order of business is designing new products, talking about new technologies, developing what we now know as the Nikken product line. The criteria for new products is fivefold. Number one, it has to be Nikken compatible. Not every product, even though it may be whiz-bang, even though it may be great, not every product is suitable for Nikken. As an example, spinner hubcaps or mag wheels. They might be great products, but they don't make any sense. They don't fit into the Nikken philosophy and the Nikken strategy. So it has to be Nikken compatible. Number two, it has to be proprietary. If it's found everywhere, and you can buy it on Amazon, or you can get online and buy it, or go to a brick and mortar store and buy it, it's not exclusive enough. Nikken needs to have proprietary products and proprietary technologies. The third is value. If you give an engineer a blank check and you say, design a product to do this, you will get it. But it might not be affordable. So there has to be a balance between the technological features and the benefits and the value that people are willing to put on it and to pay for. Number four is quality. Quality is extremely important. You can have the best product in the world, but if it falls apart, it's worthless. So quality is paramount. And then last but not least, Nikken has always had, and since my very beginnings with Nikken over 25 years ago, now it's almost 30 years ago, they've always been aware of the impact that we can have on our society and the impact that we can have on the environment. So green and being green is another key component for the Nikken products. Let's start with, and this is going to be somewhat Aristotelian, in that I'm going to look at Earth I'm going to look at water, and I'm going to look at wind or air. I'm going to start with magnetism. And I'm going to talk about magnetism and the evolution of magnetism and the Nikken products. Discovery of magnets. The term lodestone or leading stone comes from an Anglo-Saxon word which means the stone that leads. And in the old days, they found lodestones, they found magnetite, which they would tie a string to, and it would point in the direction of magnetic north. Then later on, by the 13th century, the dry compass was being used to navigate, and then William Gilbert confirmed in the 17th century that in fact the Earth is a magnet, has magnetic poles, and we have magnetic north. This is a beautiful artist's rendition of how important the Earth's magnetic field is to us and to our safety and to our well-being. On the left-hand side, you see the fireball. That's a representation of the sun, and you can see the energy coming from the sun to a small little circle in the center of what looks like a spider or it looks like a crab. And that's actually the protection that we get from the Earth's magnetic field called the magnetosphere. If we didn't have the Earth's magnetic field, if we didn't have a field of magnetism around the globe, then very harmful radiation from the sun would wipe out life as we know it. Here's another slide that I just have to include because of its beauty. This is a very large blow-up of a photograph of a common housefly, a fruit fly, Drosophila. And I put it in because, for two reasons. I'm going to tell a story that makes sense, which brings this into context, but also because look at the beauty, look at the intricacy of what we consider to be a common insect. This is a complex living thing which has so many components to it and so many structures to it that to me it's still amazing. Here's why I bring it up. Are we sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field? And the answer is yes. University of Massachusetts did a research study a few years ago where they looked at cryptochromes. Cryptochromes are proteins that are sensitive to magnetic fields and that help animals like that fruit fly, foxes, birds, track and use the Earth's magnetic field, be in tune with the Earth's magnetic field. And what they did was they took a bunch of these fruit flies that had deleted the gene for the cryptochrome. They no longer were sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field and were not influenced by magnets or were not teased with magnetic energy. They took a gene that they found in humans, in our eyes. There are two cryptochromes in our eyes. They took the genes and they inserted them into these cryptochrome deficient flies, and what happened was the flies all of a sudden were sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field, and they were able to lead them down paths and make them follow trails. The bottom line here is not only are we dependent on the Earth's magnetic field for protection, we are as animals, we are as human beings in tune with the influence of magnets, magnetism, and the Earth's magnetic field. Here's a kind of a graphic diagram of, this is supposed to be the Earth, the blue portion here is the Earth. It shows geomagnetic pole and the flux lines from the Earth's magnetic field. And in an ideal world, the flux lines would look beautiful and it would look like this nice sort of slinky-esque roundings. But in fact, this is what the flux lines actually look like. It looks like a chaotic mess. So not only are we sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field, but we also need to augment the deterioration and the confusion that we see in the Earth's magnetic field, and we do that through Nikken magnets. Here are some of the uses for magnets, and I bring this up because people say magnets, it's kind of a magician's game, it's kind of a toy that you play with. No, if we did not understand magnetism, if we did not understand how to utilize magnets, we would not have a society, we would not have a civilization as we know it today. Uses for magnets include motors. Every motor has a magnet, electromagnet, and a static magnet. Refrigerators, air conditioners, fans, pumps, timers, garage door openers. You can read this list, it goes on and on. Headphones, stereo. How we make electricity is by using a wound armature and static magnets, which we mechanically power through the magnetic field in order to produce energy. Our entire society, our entire civilization is completely dependent upon magnetism. Static magnets versus electromagnets. Two types of magnets exist where we can induce a ferromagnetic species or ferromagnetic metal to exhibit magnetic field. One is a static magnet, and the other is an electromagnet. With both types, the magnetic field is created when the atoms are aligned, and that is, they're pointing in the same direction. For instance, if you have a bar of iron and it hasn't been magnetized, then the iron atoms are just chaotic. They're just randomly placed into that bar. But if you induce a magnetic field, then what you do is you align all of those iron atoms up, and in doing that, their electron clouds align, pull together, and create flux energy and a magnetic field. Static magnets. A permanent magnet is a solid material that has intrinsic magnetism. The lodestones that I talked about were the natural ones, but we can also take iron and magnetize it, and iron, neodymium, and a lot of other ferromagnetic species in order to make a magnet that we can use for the purposes that Nikken likes, in order to induce a magnetic flux and influence what we want to. Electromagnets. This is typical electromagnetic, relies on electric current to align the atoms in the metal and to make it magnetic. Probably you've done this before when you were a little kid. You take the 10-penny nail, iron 10-penny nail, and you wind the insulated wire around it, and you hook it up to a battery, and when it's hooked up, you can pick up the paper clips, and when you open the circuit, the paper clips fall off. So instead of it being a permanent magnet, it is induced, and it's magnetized and unmagnetized depending upon whether or not the circuit is complete. Many scientists and medical authorities consider electromagnetics to be a source of potential noise, or electrosmog. You don't just get the magnetic field, you also get waves of electromagnetic energy, which may or may not be harmful. There have been a lot of studies conducted which investigate this issue, and right now there's really no general universal consensus, but there certainly are very strong feelings and very strong indications that stay away from electromagnets, use static magnets if you're going to employ them the way Nikken does. Nikken uses only static magnets. All Nikken magnetic products rely on static magnets. No Nikken product uses electricity to induce a magnetic field. We're the leader. We've been the leader. Nikken has been the world leader in wellness technology ever since it was pioneered in 1975. From the beginning, Nikken has been in the forefront of magnetic technology. Nikken is not only the creator of the magnetic insole, the sleep system, and more, it's constantly innovating and introducing new products and improvements to existing models to remain the leader in magnetic design. Here's a beauty to behold. This is Nikken's power chip. This is obviously a diagram representation of it. On the left-hand side, we have the assembled power chip. On the right-hand side, we have the explosion diagram, where we have the retaining ring on the bottom, and then we have the base with the protrusions, and then we have the perforated disc on the top. This is the disassembled part, and I think you can see up here the base itself with the protrusions and the perforated disc. It's actually floating. This is a picture that was sent when we first introduced the power chip from Dennis Williams, who was kind enough to share it with us, and a little cute kicker there says, "Levitation by Nikken, artwork by Dennis Williams." The power chip has a patented Dynaflux technology. Dynaflux is a contraction of dynamic flux energy. It provides 100% magnetic coverage with a Gauss strength of 950. This is the beauty of it. If we have a static magnet that's just a dipole magnet, it has a flux energy. And the flux energy will emanate from it. And if you press it up against your body or the area of interest, the flux energy will go into the system, it will go into your tissue, but it will be only at the defined areas. And what we wanted to do, we wanted to make a dynamic flux that's changing. Why? Because we know that if you can apply the flux lines at right angles to the target or the area of interest, it will do the most good. So what we wanted to do here was to create flux lines that were dynamic, flux energy that was dynamic. So when we push the perforated disc from the top down onto the base with the protrusions, we get a dynamic flux energy. We're essentially pumping and moving the flux lines so that we get not only 100% coverage, but we make sure that we get flux energy at the correct angle most of the time. Magflux is another derivative of the Dynaflux technology. This is the flexible back support which Sarah is using right now. She tweaked her back a little bit, so she's using the brace and the strap and the back support. It has Dynaflux technology. These are 800 Gauss Dynaflux pods that are dotted all over the back support. Greater depth of penetration, lightweight, contoured, dynamic. It's also ventilated, and as I said before, it can be used with the back belt. We incorporated the Dynaflux technology into the M strides, which took the place of the original Nikken insoles. And as you can see, where you have the red dots or where you have the red circles, that's where the Dynaflux magnets are. Every time you take a step, what you're doing is you're causing the floating ring magnet on the top to press down and to make closer and closer contact with the lower base protrusion, again, creating this fountain of flux energy, creating this dynamic flux energy, which does the best for the M strides. Exclusive Dynaflux technology, advanced and durable, active nodes around 800 Gauss, 800 to 1,000 Gauss, 100% magnetic coverage. And that's important because in the past, at the very beginning, we offered magnets that worked and they were okay and they were good, but they were very limited in the area right above or right around where they were placed. This gives us 100% coverage so that the entire bottom of the foot is bathed in this moving flux energy. Deeper, more effective energy penetration, increased flexibility, nice soft feel. And if I go back, you can see where they have the red discs, that's where the Dynaflux magnets really are. But where you can see sort of the whitish or grayish dots, those are ventilation ports, which are really key to make sure that you don't overheat and that your feet stay nice and cool. This is a bigger magnification of the Dynaflux technology. Again, showing the red ring, that's the retainer. And you can see concentric within that is the base and the protrusion. That is actually the part that moves when you step on it. And then when you step off, it releases. So that every time you take a step, you are creating this dynamic flux energy. All right, let's move on to Mag Duo. These replaced the Mag Boys a number of years ago. And these are compact massaging spheres which relax, relieve tension and stress without any of the drugs or side effects. It's Nikken magnetic technology for enhanced relaxation experience. And here what I'd like to point out with, you can see that these balls have these crenations. They have these cones sticking up. Some of the cones are gray. Those are static. They're part of the sphere itself. But the ones with the red rings around them are actually spring-loaded Dynaflux magnets. So as you roll this over your back, or roll this over the back of your leg, and massage yourself or massage somebody else with them, you are creating not only tactile impressions and acupressure type therapy, but you're also creating the Dynaflux magnetic technology. Here they are in the cases. Again, Dynaflux, you can read this, Dynaflux magnetic technology, 600 to 800 Gauss. It's easy to carry. You stick it in your pocket. It's in a nice, convenient carrying case, and I think it is one of the most innovative products that we've come up with, and one that I swear by. All right, let's move on. That was Earth. Now let's move to water. And I think one of the most significant products that I've ever had the chance to participate in its design have been the Pymag sports bottles. The tagline here is clean, green, and smart. And I think that's emblematic of what the Pymag sports bottle is all about. If you take a look at water in general, what's wrong with it? Why not just drink tap water? Why not just drink bottled water? And the answer is that the challenges that you have with tap water and bottled water are almost the same. The vast majority of the bottled waters that you buy, and I'm not going to name any brand names, but the big ones, they take tap water. They take tap water. They don't take purified water. They take tap water. They put it in a polycarbonate bottle. They blow some ozone in there to kill off the microbes, put the cap on it, and they charge you an arm and a leg for it. Tap water itself has a lot of contaminants in it, and because of the way tap water, municipal water, has to be treated, we're actually adding problems to it. And what I'm talking about here is chlorination. In order to take water from a river, let's say, or even a well, and bring it to your kitchen sink so that it's drinkable. It has to be potable, which means the number of microbes, the number of pathogens, the number of bacteria have to be reduced to a level that is low enough so we don't get sick. And the cheapest and easiest way to do that is to use a pesticide called chlorine. So they bubble gas, the same chlorine they put in the pool. So they bubble chlorine through the tap water so that the pathogens, the level of pathogens has been reduced to an acceptable risk level, which means you're drinking chlorinated water. And chlorine itself is not the best thing in the world to drink, but at the same time, the chlorine and the chlorination process creates unwanted elements in. For instance, let's say you have some decayed leaves that might be in the mainstream, that might be in the water stream coming into the house or coming into the municipal treatment facility. Chlorine can chlorinate those, creating volatile organic compounds such as chloramine, inorganics. There's herbicides that have been used in the farmlands that go into the aquifers, that come into our water system, pesticides, you could imagine, and even pharmaceuticals. They found a high level of synthetic hormones, this is from birth control pills, in the aquifers in Alaska. So the tap water, almost no matter where you go, besides having the problem, the challenge of chlorination, also have the challenge of all these other contaminants. Water molecule. I promised somebody here that we would get to Mickey Mouse, and the water molecule itself looks very much like Mickey Mouse. We have the two ears, are their hydrogens, and the oxygen atom is in the center, so it's H2O. But the reason I put this up is to show you that this is a polar molecule, meaning there's a net charge between the two hydrogens, plus, 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 and the oxygen, which is negative, negative, negative. And what happens when the water molecule ionizes, it means one of these hydrogens break off so that we have an H plus floating around in the fluid, in the water, and we have an OH negative floating around in the fluid. And the balance between the H pluses and the OH minuses defines the pH. And here's pH. pH actually means potential for hydrogen. The numbers are derived as the negative logarithm of the hydrogen ion concentration. Forget that. The bottom line is this scale shows to what extent the OH negatives from the H2O and the H positives are balanced. If they're perfectly balanced, we have a pH of 7. When the H pluses start to take over and become predominant, then it starts to move into the acidic. And acidic means oxidative. Acidic means caustic. Acidic means it can cook. And I mean that literally. If you look at number 2 up there, if you can see it, it's actually a lemon. pH of 2 is lemon juice. Many cultures use lemon juice to cook their food. A good example is ceviche. Whether you're in Mexico or Latin America or in Southern California where it's very popular, you take your uncooked fish, your uncooked shrimp, and you squeeze lemon juice into it and let it sit for a while, and the acidity, those H pluses that are out there, actually cause protein degradation, and it causes the shrimp, the fish to cook. So it's edible. What we discovered was it's much, much better to be on the alkaline side. And we did this very early on when we were researching and deciding which characteristics the sport bottle was going to have, and decided we wanted to produce clean, alkaline water. Why? Because obviously clean. We want to get the contaminants out. We want to get the chlorine out. We want to get the chloramine out. We want to get the VOCs out. We want to get the lead, the heavy metals out. But also we want to adjust, not only add key minerals to it, which the PIMAG does, but we also wanted to adjust the pH to be in the alkaline region, because drinking a glass of PIMAG water is essentially the same as drinking a glass of antioxidants. Here's the issue. And one of the reasons that we began the project was bottled water. Bottled water, besides being expensive, wreaks havoc on the planet. 28 billion throwaways. And these are throwaways made of polycarbonate, which means they don't degrade, they don't break down. They're going to be around for they're going to be around longer than I'm going to be around. 17 million barrels of oil a year are used to manufacture these bottles. That would power 100,000 cars, assuming you have a gasoline-powered car, for a year, and it spews 2.5 million tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. The alternative to bottled water is the Nikken PiMag. Advanced technology turns tap water into great tasting PiMag water. Stay healthy, save money, save the planet. Proven filtration, adding key minerals, making it alkaline, adjusting the pH between 8.5 and 9.5, getting rid of the contaminants that make the tap water not taste very good, adding aesthetics, taking away odor. It's a fundamental step in the right direction in order to transform your tap water into something that's not only usable, but something that's healthy. Independent laboratory tested, the chlorine removal exceeds standard, chloramine exceeds standard, particulates, heavy metals, and VOCs, all of those reductions exceed industry standards. So here it is. Now, here's an interesting aspect of it. We use 4 neodymium magnets to complete the mag part of the PiMag. And you can see that black band that goes around the midsection of the sport bottle. It has 4 neodymium magnets, 4,200 Gauss, very strong, which create what I call a crossfire. If you take the plane across where that band is, we have magnetic flux that matches, that creates this plane of magnets that the water that's about to be filtered has to pass through, which declusters the water. And here's a great, again, artist representation of clustered water. If the water molecule has a net dipole charge, meaning has a net positive and a net negative region, it's like a little magnet. And if you take a bag of magnets and shake them up together, you're going to get clumps. You're going to get clusters. Water's the same way. And if you have large clusters or you have clustered water, A, it makes it very difficult to filter, and B, it makes it very difficult for your body to absorb. The cells have pores, which we call aquipores, and if you have clusters, if you have water clusters, it can't get in. So it's great to have clean water, but if it's clustered, it doesn't do much good if you can't hydrate the cells. Green technology, changeable filter, you don't throw it away. Many, many, many uses. It uses a biogreen compound in the plastic itself, which costs a little bit more, but it has the impact in the cross-linking of the plastic itself. Once it's had its many, many uses and you need to discard it, when it goes to a landfill, it will within 30 days, because of this added biogreen compound, it will degrade into humus, into fertilizer within 30 to 60 days. No other plastics or compounds, organic compounds, are going to leach out of it. No BPA, no leachables, no phthalates. Clean, cost-effective PiMag water. These are the general specifications, 26 ounces, and you can see this. This is all available online. I don't think I'm going to belabor that, but I'm going to move on to another key technology, which is a spin-off and actually a progression from the water technologies that we have, which is the waterfall. Proprietary design, unparalleled water filtration and water treatment technology, proven and certified water quality. Certified by the U.S. Water Quality Association, exceeds internationally recognized standards from ANSI and NSF, 42 and 53. This is for contaminants, particulates, and heavy metals. It significantly reduces chlorine, chloramine, taste, and odor. Class 3 particulates, volatile organic compounds, heavy metals, exceeds the required specifications. PiMag technology, Pi materials in the filter, adds trace minerals, balances the pH to make a more alkaline, and helps to balance the acidic environment. We've talked about that before. Okay, green technology, again, made exclusively with recyclable, biodegradable materials. Contains no BPA, which is bisphenol A, which all of those polycarbonate disposable water bottles have. When you buy it from 7-Eleven, every one of those polycarbonates is leaching, it's sitting there on the shelf, leaching BPA into the water you drink, which is a known carcinogen. No concerns over chemical leaching into the water. Recyclable, reduces environmental impact. I would say the environmental impact is close to zero. Here are the features. I think it's good looking. I think it's stylish. It's patented. It has an exceptionally efficient filtration system. Again, adjusts the pH into the alkaline. So we're getting that 8-ounce glass of clean, good tasting antioxidants. Has an LED indicator to tell you when to change the filter and recyclable components. All right, I'm going to move briefly into the air because I promised you earth, water, and wind or air. And this is the air filter. And I want to talk a little bit about where we are in our environment. Here in Southern California, we have had and we're still experiencing a tremendous problem with fires, with the wildfires. The other day, I actually looked up at the sun and I could look directly at it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because there was so much haze, there was so much smoke that it was virtually blotted out. But there are more. Everybody, I don't care where you are in the world, you have indoor air pollution that needs to be addressed. And you need to have an air wellness system that can do that. Laboratory grade, multiple stage air filtration. Negative ion technology, which is key. No ozone. It seems silly. Many of the air filtration systems that are out there clean the air and add ozone, which is a toxic element, toxic gas you don't want to breathe. So it doesn't make any sense. It's hypocritical. Either make the air clean or don't. We have ozone-free operation. We have an air quality monitor that tells you how many contaminants you have in the air, and an automatic mode which clicks it back up and amps up the motor speed so that you know it's time to give more effort to getting the air clean. Green technology to protect the environment. And I want to talk about HEPA. HEPA is high efficiency particulate air filter. It's used in surgical operating rooms. It's used in wafer manufacturing for the computer industry, for making chips, medical research facilities, NIH, CDC, and they all recommend it. Particularly for where we are today with the pandemic. And I want to disclaim, I'm not saying that our air filtration system will take out the coronavirus. I can't say that. I don't know that. We don't know that. It hasn't been proven. But that's beside the point. There are a tremendous number of pathogens that are in the air, whether it's bacteria or parasites or whatever it may be. HEPA filter stops them. HEPA filter gets them out. And when you combine that with the ionization that's out there, what we're doing is we are taking, with the negative ion production, what we're doing is we're taking these particles that are floating around or aerosols that are floating around that are neutral, and we're charging them negatively so that when they go through this multi-stage filter, they will stick and stay. And it's the best way to clean the air. And I'm aware that the air wellness from Nikken is available in North America, it's available in Mexico and Latin America, and it may not be available in Europe, but I would encourage everyone to get a multi-stage air filtration system for your house, for your living room, for your bedroom, like the Nikken that has the characteristics, if you can find it or get something close to what Nikken has in order to enhance your well-being. And then I'm on the last slide here, and I asked some of the people on the crew here today if they could guess who that was. And the bottom line is, that's me in 1972 on my very first motorcycle. I was in college, and I posed for a friend who was a photographer, and I just wanted to point out that things do change. Although, on Friday I got my haircut, my first haircut since COVID, my first haircut since March, and the hair on the outside looked the same, but the top not so much. At any rate, I want to thank you very much for paying attention, I hope, and I want to thank Nikken for inviting me. Again, Kurt Foley, Luis Kasuga, and I appreciate being here, and I'm glad to be back and reconnected with my Nikken family. Thank you.